We live in a time in our busy lives when the notions of community are breaking down as we rush out of the garage in the morning, driving back each night, only to disappear into the solitude of our homes. Disconnected from our surroundings, do we believe that nothing we do matters? Do we believe that community is important? Or do we believe that one person can make a difference? The Power of One show is all about individuals making a difference. So I'm very excited today to be able to have with us in the studio Dominick Correy. Dominick, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And you have a fascinating story, so I want to get into it because I think our viewers will be really inspired by what you're doing. But apparently, last time I saw you, like a couple of months ago, you were working as a chaser, and we'll talk about that more. But now you're working as a field deputy for, or a district rep for a state senator. How did that happen?
Senator Anthony Portantino, who just got elected in November for the 25th district, reached out and told me to come interview to be his district rep. My daily duties, or my area I cover, is the Pasadena-Altadena area. So he gives us the green light to go be with the people, to go be with the community. He is a community-oriented person, loves to be in the community, to go to church, to...
But why'd you say yes?
Because it's an opportunity. It's, for the last 10 years, I was working at Learning Works Charter School, and he reached out. This was a chance for me to grow professionally and to do more work on a bigger scale, to now go into policy and politics and leave education. It was a hard decision because I gave 10 years to Learning Works. 10 years, even before it was a school, I was working with youth and at that location on a day-to-day basis. To go into policy and politics, something I knew nothing about.
Yeah, so you've been doing it for a couple of months now, and
weeks.
Oh, short time. So, but I saw you Friday night up at the Altadena Chamber, and then I saw you this morning at the Clergy Community Coalition. From this short amount of time, what have been some of the biggest surprises for you, or what's kind of opened your eyes to a different world?
Coming from education, working with students every day, to going into politics, even though I'm not the elected official, I deal with the people. So if it's either people calling in every day about issues or bills that they approve or oppose to, and being able to interact with them on that level, either they're emailing, or going on our website with casework or bills that they're suggesting. I have to learn that whole process and deal with that. Or I'm out in the community going to awards and events or meetings. I prefer to be out in the community. I prefer to having the office's voice heard and represented. So,
yeah. So thinking about, we had a contentious election nationally, and these days there's a lot of, I would say, unrest politically. What are you finding? How does a politician, or how do you build trust with the community? How are they responding to you? It would seem like in this era there'd be a lot of suspicion about what politicians want and how they're doing their jobs.
I would say 30% of our calls on a daily basis have to deal with federal issues and the new president's nominations and bills and stuff like that. We get about 30% calls, but when I'm out in the community, people are kind of hesitant on politicians right now just because of what's going on and the bills that are coming out, how they will affect them. Because now it's reality of how immigration law affects everybody, whether you're for it or you're against it. And having to be able to explain that to people from my knowledge and my understanding, and voice the opinion of the senator where he stands on these bills and why he stands on these bills. It's good. I mean, it's different from what I'm used to. The good thing about the senator that I work for, Senator Portantino, he's all about governmental transparency. He's like an open book, so he is advocating for bills for other senators or other elected officials to be transparent, to show their taxes
to the public.
To the public.
Right.
Yes, to be transparent to the public.
Yeah. So personally, has it changed working in politics now? Has it changed your perspective about elected officials? And because you're kind of seeing behind, because for a lot of us, it's what you see on television or it's what you see in the media, and we don't necessarily get to see behind the curtain or sort of the day-to-day work. But do you feel comfortable with the government, the way it's being run?
Me having this job, totally fine with the government. I'm totally, I think we will be okay. I think we have some hurdles to get over.
Well, certainly in California.
Certainly in California. But I mean, as a country, we have some hurdles to get over. But we have good people in office that's just not your president, vice president, and the federal issues. I am more big on local elections. I look at local elections bigger than your presidency because they make the policies that actually affect the people, that affect the day-to-day lives. Obviously, the federal government with money and federal money and stuff like that, plays a big part. If the federal government is giving police departments, passing the police $100 million to run a program or whatever the case may be.
They don't.
True, but if they did, I'm just saying, if they did, yes, that plays a big part. But local elections, local elected officials mean so much more to me. Now that I'm behind the scenes and I'm seeing the day-to-day action, it's a hard job, though.
And just so you know, Chief Sanchez was at a meeting recently, and he said he receives about $100,000 from the federal government. So if they cut that off, Pasadena would be fine. But I think your point, what you're trying to say is that if people want to get involved and they want to participate in democratic activities, the local level is the best way to do that. Is that
if there's one thing that I have learned from this job in the last 3 weeks that I've been in this job, it's the local officials matter. So learn your city council member, learn your LA County supervisor, learn their district reps, because those are going to be your contact people, and call into their office. If you have a complaint, an issue, a concern, whatever the case may be, call into their office because we hear everything. We document everything. Everybody that calls, emails, it all goes into a system, and so you reach out. So that's my goal of being in this job, is to get people in my community, to get the young adults in my community to actually go learn who their local elected officials is, and then reach out and see how you can either help or...
Well, and that's what I was pushing on earlier, is since there is mistrust and there is disapproval, how do you convince someone from the community that you're representing, or as you're saying, your community, how do you convince them that it's okay to stick their neck out?
I think so far I've dealt with people that are in my inner circle. So it's kind of easier to talk to somebody in my inner circle. If my brother's having a problem with an area that he lives in and it's homeless people, and to be able to call the county so they can come clean it up or whatever the case may be, that's easy. But I want to live by example. If I'm going to believe in if I'm going to work in the system, I want to believe in the system. And obviously the government is huge. I don't know every parts of the government. I'm just learning.
Well, you will.
I'm learning, just learning. It's huge. It's so much in the government.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. You were talking about education, which is one portion of the government, but that's been in the headlines lately. What was your experience, before this particular job? What was your experience in education? And maybe describe a little bit, because I think a lot of the viewers don't know what LearningWorks is. So how would you describe that?
So for the last 10 years, I worked at LearningWorks Charter School, which is a charter school on the east side of Pasadena that deals with at-risk youth, high school dropouts, pregnant and parenting teens. We want the kids that are kind of pushed out your other traditional schools or just don't fit their schools because of gang activity or drugs or lack of parental guidance. So I was a big brother there. I was a chaser, was my official title, and we literally went out and chased kids. So I wore tennis shoes every day, not the hard shoes and a shirt and
Little
tie.
different now.
Totally different from what I have to wear now, but and I was literally in the parks, literally driving around, chasing students and making them come to school.
So I think a lot of people in society, going to school is sort of a normal activity, and it's assumed that their kids will go. Why was it so hard for these kids to not attend? Why were they on the edge of dropping out?
Well, to speak for LearningWorks, 98% of our kids qualify for free and reduced lunch.
So economically?
Economically.
They're tough.
Their priorities are not to go to school every day. Their priorities are, how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to get money to pay these bills? How am I going to feed my child? So economics is a big thing with these kids. And then gangs. They didn't feel comfortable at some of the schools that they went to. And then lack of parental support. A middle class family or a working class family, a parent is usually on education. A parent will make sure your son or child gets up and goes to school every day. Somebody that comes from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, their parents might have to leave the house at 6 o'clock in the morning and might not even call the kids because they're at work to make sure that they're going to school. And so the kids just stay home and no parental support, or you have that bilingual aspect where parents come from another country, speak very little English, and know nothing about the education system.
And you dealt with all those issues at LearningWorks?
I dealt with, you name it, everything. So many. And I miss the place. I really do. I miss working with the kids. I miss being there every day and transforming lives that way.
Right. Yeah, you really feel like you're making an impact.
Yeah. When you see a kid grow up through the system, grow up through the LearningWorks, and he graduates, it's rewarding for me.
I liked what you said earlier about being a role model. So can you talk a little bit about how that's played out in your life? Because my understanding is you had a similar upbringing to some of the kids in the school. So can you talk about your experience?
Yeah, I grew up in the juvenile justice system from the age of 12 till I was 25. I was either in and out of jail or on some type of parole or probation. So I know all about the juvenile justice and the prison system, like it's the back of my hand. I got an opportunity to go to work, change my life. Dr. Michael and Ron, who founded LearningWorks Charter School, she believed in me. She gave me a chance and gave me a job. And the job changed my whole perspective on life. It gave me hope because now I'm making legitimate money to take care of my daughter at the time, who was just born. She was like 2 or 3 months when I started working there. She gave me an opportunity to take care of my child. And anybody knows, you go to work every day and you work hard, you come home tired. When I left LearningWorks every day, I was too tired to go hang out in the hood and hang out on street corners and stuff like that. I wanted to go home, get on the couch and watch ESPN. And then I wanted to be with my daughter and be a role model. And then as I'm working with these kids, and I'm telling these kids to go to school, go to school, go to school, I myself went back to school.
Where'd you go?
I started off at PCC, got my GEs, and then I went to Cal Poly Pomona, and I double majored in ethnic and women's studies and psychology.
Yeah, you graduated last year or the year before?
It's about 2 years ago now.
Good.
It's been about 2 years. And even then, and I tell the kids that I talk to, I was 18, 19 years old when I went to prison. And I went to prison for 8 months, right? And I did that time. And that was 11 years ago. But that felony on my record still affected me today. As a 31-year-old man with a college degree, I can't just go to any program, and try to get a job, or even grad school. I was limited on the options I could go to grad school for because I have that felony, and some grad school programs require you to pass a background check. If people don't believe in you and give you the opportunity, then I could have been a hidden gem. Michael believed in me and gave me an opportunity to do good work in my community, to give back to the students I was working with. And the senator...
I was going to say, it's a good thing he didn't do a background check,
yes. Right? Well, I was open and honest with him. He knows my background. The first time I ever met the senator, I was speaking when he was an assemblyman years ago. I was speaking in Sacramento to the assembly about dropouts. And after we spoke on the floor, he gave us a background tour of the Senate, and he took us into the chambers, the assembly chambers, where they have all of these candies and sweets and
It's kind of like the green room here.
yes, just like the green room here, all the good stuff. And he let us, it's 4 of us, we're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, to go in there and just take all the candy and stuff that we wanted, ice cream. Like I said, he gave us a backroom tour. Come to find out later on, he got in trouble for it, but he didn't care because he was making some kids happy.
Right.
That was the first time I ever met the senator. And then we just did community stuff throughout the years. He would call me, ask me about certain issues, how I felt about certain things.
Yeah.
And he was watching me. I was doing good work and he was watching. And it's nice to know that that work paid off because now I have a
Right, he
good
saw
job.
something in you at that time. But let's go back to one of the comments you made about transformation and change. So in your case, it sounds like there were 2 motivating factors. One was a job, and the second one was a daughter.
Yes.
So there's a bit of responsibility there, but then there's a mechanism by which you can pay for that responsibility. You've seen so many different lives transform, some 3 or 4 times, or falling back and coming up and falling back again. From your perspective, what is the best way to help someone who wants to change? It seems like society puts so many barriers in people, and the felony that you were talking about is one of them. How can we better help as a community people who want to transform their lives?
Number one, don't judge a book by its cover. People that I talk to, people that I deal with on a daily basis, probably knew I've never been to prison, or that I have been to prison. They never knew that about me.
Yeah, I would imagine at the chamber meeting on Friday night, nobody except for me.
Except for you that knew that I've been to prison.
Right.
And I don't hide that. I am an open book. You ask me, I'm going to tell you. Just because I'm proud from where I came from and where I'm going.
Right.
And I've been blessed throughout my journey. But don't judge a book by its cover because there's so many other hidden jewels that are in the system that made bad decisions. Yes, there's people that deserve to be in there.
Yeah.
But when you do things when you're an 18, 19-year-old boy, and now you're a 31-year-old man, a lot has happened where you become a man and make positive decisions and stuff like that.
So for society not to make assumptions about the individual.
Jobs are key. Like that is one of the biggest things. Just because.
But you were talking about before, felonies are a barrier.
Yes.
So how do we deal with that?
Maybe change the law where felonies don't matter after a certain amount of time. If you do so much time where you're clean, you're fresh off of drugs, 5, 7, I think it's 7 years now, it kind of goes away. But even then, it's still on your record if you have to do a federal background check. But if it's 5 years, maybe everything is washed away. 7 years, everything is washed away.
So an expungement type of a process.
Yes, but even in my case, I've had one of the best lawyers in Southern California, Steve Madison, go to court with me and help me expunge my record. And because I went to prison, there's nothing he could do.
Yeah.
So all my juvenile cases have been wiped away, but that one case, which was check fraud, I can't get that washed away. Nonviolent crime, but that's still on my record. And it was harboring me from growing as a professional, from me going to grad school. If I wanted to go into social work, which I was doing for 10 years working at Learning Works, have 10 years experience of that, I can't go into a program because I can't pass a background check. And I don't think there's too many people that I know that could deal with kids and deal with at-risk youth better than I can. Not only because I was one, and because I've been doing it for the last 10 years, but because of that felony that stopped me from doing it on a professional way.
Yeah, and it sounds like grad schools should reevaluate their criteria as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so society shouldn't make assumptions, and they should create employment pathways
Yes.
for people with a record or people who've had challenged backgrounds. Any other suggestions that you'd have?
I mean, you started a great program, the Reintegration Council, with the Flint Ridge Foundation, the reintegration
Yeah.
program that just gives people the resources, whether you're homeless or you're fresh out, the resources to get the help that you need and to find help. But even then, it's
Yeah.
still hard. It is hard. I know people getting out right now, and for them just to go get an ID. You get $200 when you leave prison. Some people get out and you're homeless. You don't know where you're gonna lay your head at, and you have to take that $200 and spend $27 on an ID.
Right.
Do I want to feed myself
Your
for the
gate
next
money.
week? Your gate money. Do I want to feed myself with that $27, or do I want to get an ID? You need an ID because you need a job. You need to get around. If the police pull you over and ask you for your ID, that's just another ticket if you don't have it.
Right. Then, which leads to another barrier.
Which leads to another barrier. So once you're in the system, I tell everybody that I know, it's so hard to get out. It's so hard to get out. It took me, I have been out of prison almost 10 years, exactly 10 years, and I'm still faced with those same barriers.
Yeah.
Yes, I could vote. Yes, I do have a good job. Yes, I have a driver's license and all of the above, but like I said, for me, applying for grad school where I want to better myself, where I'm willing to pay money to go to school and better myself, I'm still limited on what I can do.
Yeah, I think it was Father Greg Boyle who said something like, we should never judge people on the worst thing that they ever did, and that we should be more conscious of the burden that the poor carry instead of judging the poor.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, like in your case, the tipping point again was getting a job and having someone believe in you, and then also having your daughter. But for other people, what is kind of the change point or the tipping point? Well, how can we help them to? Because I know there are a lot of people, and even at Learning Works, there are a lot of people who are still hard, and they're still not wanting to accept the resources that are being given to them. And they're still sitting in the park at La Pintoresca or Robinson and just saying, I'm just going to stay in this lifestyle. How can we help them to change?
President Obama came up with one of the best campaign slogans ever, hope. Hope means so much, because if somebody could see hope, if somebody could feel hope, if they could start envisioning what hope looks like, they would change their lives. It's when you walk out your house and you see trash and you see the bad areas that doesn't give you hope.
Yeah.
The one good thing about Learning Works, we took our kids on a field trip every day out the week, just so they could see out of their community, whether it's going to the zoo, Long Beach Aquarium, California Science Center, just so you could see out of your area, and that gave them a little bit of hope.
That's a great idea.
There's more than life than hanging out in the projects or hanging out on a street corner. Get out and see the world. So hope, I think that's one of the biggest things that help people.
Yeah, and sometimes that's difficult to present to them, again, because when you have them in a school, it's easier to provide those opportunities, but if they're just on the street, it's a little bit harder. So I wanted to change slightly, stay on the same thought process, but make it more personal. So how old is your daughter now?
My daughter's 10. No more kids for me. 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah. So she's going to be, as she grows older, she's going to be faced with some similar challenges in life. So what do you anticipate telling her when she says, Dad, I got a boyfriend, or Dad, I'm going to hang out with my friends and we're going to go to a party? And how can you help guide her through that process?
One thing I learned from the way that I was raised, just to be involved, to sit there and talk to your child. That means so much more than the money that you could provide. Yes, providing a roof over her head and clothes and food and stuff like that. That is all great, but to actually be there for her, to go to her basketball games, to be able to practice basketball with her, to sit there and listen to her read, to go to her classroom and check in with her teacher who she loves. That means so much more, to have that relationship. And I'm a big kid myself, so I go onto campus and I hang out and play with her and know all her friends, and all her friends tell me all her business. So if she ever has a boyfriend, I would know before she would probably tell me because her friends, but just to be involved. I think my mom had to work 2 jobs to provide for me and my little brother. I want to get to the point where I'm only working 1 job, 1 good job, and able to give my daughter everything she can want or need financially, but also that time, love, and support that she would need me when she does.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why you're here is to be an example for other people and to show people that there is hope, there is possibility of change, and that no matter what your background was, and you described yours, that you can still make a contribution to the community and to yourself. Make yourself whole once again. I think in many ways, what we would describe as finding your original purpose, because I think it's pushed away from you or taken away from you. So any last thoughts that you want to leave us with today?
I just want to live my life as an example. Made mistakes when I was a young man. Now that I'm a grown man, starting to get a couple gray hairs. I'm hoping my wisdom will grow and I'm able to help the next person to get to where I'm at. Don't judge a book by its cover, and just live life to its fullest. Even though you've been through these trials and tribulations, there's always a better day.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
It's
Thank you,
fantastic.
Ryan. Thank you, thank you.
So thank you for watching Power of One.
Power of One.
Power of One, yes. And we will continue the conversation with our next guest, Tariq Shaki, who will be with us on the next edition of Power of One. Thank you for watching this evening.